Welcome to our podcast, Inspiring Living, with me, Mark Candelaria. I am an architect, blogger, traveler, chef, father, and husband. I am the founder and now a partner of a fabulous 20-person architecture firm specializing in high-end residential architecture, designing amazing homes across the country. Over the last 20 years, we have hosted tours to Italy, Spain, and soon the Oregon wine country. And in the course of all this, I have met a lot of interesting people who truly inspire me. Our podcast is about all the opportunities that are right there in front of us to inspire living. Yes, we will talk about architecture and design, but every week we will venture into all sorts of topics that will inspire you, teach you, and motivate you to inspire living every day. My guests will include a wide gamut of amazing people, from those in the design industry to clients to real estate professionals, chefs, artists, sports figures, and philanthropists, and people who just flat out get it. Sit back and enjoy, and let's have some fun exploring all the opportunities that are just waiting for us. Please subscribe and get ready to be inspired every week. Okay, as my dad says, here we go. Welcome, everyone, and thank you always for tuning into our podcast. Well, here we are now in 2022. I took a little break over the holidays, but we are back, and we are back at it, and we have some inspiring podcasts in the works. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season, and I hope everyone's new year is off to a great start. With the COVID numbers back up, our Candelaria design crew is back to working from home again, so hopefully we get over this next wave and we can all get back to our lives. But at this point, who knows? So we're playing it safe, and we're all working from home again, and we'll just see where things go from here. So anyway, this weekend, Isabel and I just returned from a weekend in Prescott at the Talking Rock Ranch Resort, where we have 3 spectacular projects in the works and a couple others in Prescott that we've got going. We brought Isabel's mother with us, Alette, who was celebrating her birthday. And so the 3 of us had a lovely weekend up there. It was just fantastic, nice and brisk, but clear. Coyotes were howling. The stars were out. It was fantastic. A couple quick announcements. Our Candelaria Design Oregon wine tour is sold out, and we are filling our June Spain tour quickly. So if you are ready to travel, and who isn't, message me or email me and get on board, as this will be an amazing tour. We've got some great spots: Madrid, Cordoba, and San Sebastian. So definitely come along. It's a 2-week tour, and you know what? We're just going to do our best to make it happen, and we'll just see how things look when we get to June. Okay, today's podcast features a super inspiring gentleman who I am just getting to know more and more. And the more I do, I definitely see a lot of synergy between us. And so I am looking forward to all that is ahead. Today's podcast is with President and CEO of Scottsdale Arts, Gerd Wuestemann. And we had a fantastic podcast delving into his career and his vision and mission with everything happening with Scottsdale Arts. Let's just say the art scene in Scottsdale is alive and well, and a lot of credit needs to go to this man and his energy and leadership. Let's welcome Gerd Wuestemann. Our guest today is Gerd Wuestemann. Wuestemann, did I say it correctly?
That is as close as they come.
President and CEO of Scottsdale Arts. Good morning, Gerd, and thanks for getting up so early on a Saturday morning.
Good morning, Mark. Great to see you, and thanks for having me. And what a beautiful view out of your back window.
Well, I'll tell you,
here.
had you been here about an hour ago, you would have seen the most amazing sunrise. I don't know if you caught it this morning. But
I did, yeah.
It was unbelievable.
It's incredible, yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So, Gerd, I met you about 6 months ago when I was invited to join Scottsdale Arts Board by several of your members. And now I am graciously on the board and excited to be part of this organization and learning so much at every turn. And you are the man behind all of this.
Yeah, sometimes
I know you're very humble. And
sometimes the head, sometimes on the other end. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I am truly amazed and so excited to share all that is going on with Scottsdale Arts today, and to have the opportunity to get to know you better. And that's one of the things I love about these podcasts is, we'll have casual conversations at meetings, or we might get together for dinner. But you never really get to truly know somebody the way you do when you do a podcast interview, is what I found. So,
yeah, for sure.
So I'm really looking forward to that. I feel your energy each time I'm at the board meeting. I walk away from those board meetings really jazzed. But now reading your bio, I understand totally why. So, wow, you are incredible, and I cannot wait to dive in and talk about your life and then all the exciting things we have going on right here in Scottsdale with Scottsdale Arts. Okay, so to start, Gerd, you hold a master's degree from the Musikhochschule. See, I can tell you got a little German in me.
Pretty good, yeah.
Frankfurt and San Francisco Conservatory of Music. and a doctorate from the University of Arizona. Go
indeed.
Wildcats. He is a graduate of Leadership Louisiana, NAS Global Executive Leadership Program, and Meeting of the Minds National Executive Cohort. Okay, well, that's a diverse collection of venues from Germany to San Francisco, Tucson, and Louisiana.
Yeah,
So you've gotten around.
There was a year in New York in between where I did my postgraduate as well. So I lived all over Europe for my first master's degree. It kind of goes back to my origins. I'll tell you a bit about it. I grew up in a really small town in Germany that has some uniquely German features. My hometown received its city rights in 976. It's a very old town, which is for us it's not too uncommon. And so when I was a young boy, we celebrated 1,000 years as a city, but it remained a very small place. And it had the distinction to be located only 2 miles from the East German border on the western side. So when the country was divided, we can only go a couple of miles in two directions. So I grew up in that environment, real working class family. My dad ran a toy store. My parents were all carpenters and house painters, etc. And so that was my family. Nobody ever played music, but when I was 5 years old, I got a guitar in my hand. It was a nylon string classical style guitar, and it was the greatest thing I've ever sort of been enthralled with, and I immediately took to it, and then a few years later got some great lessons at a conservatory in the next bigger city, and then when I was 12, I think I won a big international competition, professional competition, and so it launched my career at a very young age. So in classical music, it's not so unusual, but it really propelled me into that field, and I started touring professionally with an agent when I was 12 or 13, and started touring the world. So later on, when it was time to go to college, my government always invested in me and sent me to study with famous guitarists across Europe. So I got to spend a semester each in different countries and cities, and it was a unique and exciting time. There's some drawbacks to that. You don't develop good roots. I walked away from my family life very early on, but I think it set me on my course in my love for the arts.
Right.
But also I think it set me on my course in terms of wanting to explore and move away. Up to that point, nobody in my family for about 550 years ever left my hometown area.
Wow.
They all still live there, and so I sort of discovered a different path for my life. So yeah, I did get around, and when I did my doctorate out here, University of Arizona has the biggest doctoral program in my field. I discovered how much I really love the desert.
And quite different from Germany.
It is about as different. I come from a very gray country, and this is the antithesis, right? You can see forever, and it's always blue. And I found that very very appealing. So I always, after I left Arizona, I always thought I want to come back, and and here I am many years later. So it's been cool. Very exciting.
So Arizona, that's interesting. I mean, what led you to Arizona? I mean, you said there was a doctorate program here or something?
Yeah, there are about a handful of doctoral programs in guitar performance, which is a doctor of musical arts. It combines scholarship and performance. You have to play lots of repertoire. You have to be a really strong player, but you also write a dissertation. The biggest and arguably finest program is at the University of Arizona.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Professor there built an amazing program, and always has 30 or so of the best players from around the world come and study there. And it was an inspiring place to be because as I said, I loved Tucson, I loved the desert, but also, I was surrounded by incredible guitarists. And
How old were you then?
I think I finished my doctorate when I was 29, so I started when I was 26. I was there for 3 years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been such a cultural change from Germany too.
It was, and so the two things. So Germans are enamored with the Southwest, right? And we have this very romantic notion of the Southwest, and I think rightfully so. I think it's an amazing place. Yep. But it goes back to a very famous German author, Karl May, who at the turn of the last century wrote all these very romanticized novels about cowboys and Indians, and we all grew up with that. He never set foot in the New World, so it was all pure fiction. He just made it up. He
just imagined it.
But I think all of us really became enamored. And fun fact, my last name, Wuestemann, actually translates in English as desert man. So
that's
there you have
interesting. It. Wow. Well, your soul found its path, right?
It did.
That's so interesting. So, yeah, I was listening. You sent me the links to some of your music, and now you just brought me some amazing CDs. And just a little bit I listened to this morning. I was listening to it all morning. and you're just amazing. Your music is absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorite types of music to begin with, and then when you send it to me, I go, well, this is perfect.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm very pleased, and then we kind of, you came over this morning. We grabbed a little coffee in my back kitchen because I'm about ready to remodel my kitchen, and you were kind of caught by my all my smokers and barbecues, and we went off on barbecue land.
Yeah.
And started talking about cooking. So you love to cook too.
I love to cook, and Lord knows I love to eat. So there's that.
There's the combo, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we'll have to get together and jam and barbecue and do some of that together.
Absolutely.
For sure. So with your music career, there was some things that moved you away from that whole center stage. And talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I had spent my entire life basically doing one thing and one thing only. I was a classical guitar solo performer. Yep. That's a very unique thing because I toured the world by myself. You walk on stage every night. At the height of my career, I played 100 or so concerts a year around the world, literally. And you walk on stage every night, and it's just you, and then people stand up for you. And so it's a big ego trip, of course.
Yeah.
And you start that at a very, very young stage in your life. So it's an interesting way to grow up, and it has a lot of challenges, obviously, because you are very isolated, and you become very self-centered.
Yeah,
and,
interesting.
I don't think unless you think you're hot stuff, you can't really pull it off every night on stage by yourself. So it kind of is the price you pay. But then in my mid-late 30s, I had two massive back-to-back injuries. I mean, the first was just a dumb slip and fall. I shattered my wrist, my left wrist, which is probably the worst thing you can break as a classical guitarist.
Jeez.
And thankfully, I found a surgeon who had a new technique that saved my wrist, because most of the time you have so much residual stiffness it never comes back. So it almost all came back.
Wow.
But so a year after that injury and surgery, I had just recovered and started playing concerts again. I then had a bad bike crash. I was really into cycling. I did a lot of triathlons and stuff, and raced bicycles. And I had a bad accident, wiped out, shattered my shoulder, and have a couple plates in there. And so as that happened, I was out for another year, and at that point my career was done. There were lots of young players coming up that were incredible, and so already it would have been hard to stay competitive, I think.
Right.
But so at that point, I just had to figure out, okay, well,
what do I
next?
do now? So I mean, you're going from this like being, showered with recognition and attention, and like you said, your ego is just patted on the back every single day. Yeah. You go from that to instantaneously a whole different world, right?
That was it was one of the hardest and certainly most depressing times for me for a couple of years there, because being a guitarist wasn't just what I did, and it was also the main source of income for me. But it was kind of who I was. Right,
that's what I'm saying. That was you.
Yeah, and letting go of that was incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after being depressed for a couple of years, I figured out, now what? So I got very fortunate because I found a couple of partners to build a business together, and we invested a little money and built a company making carbon fiber guitars. So it was still in my wheelhouse.
Still in music, yeah, that's good.
But so I learned in real time what it takes to build a business, to work with others. I learned how to read a balance sheet, and I learned that, and this is something that really stuck with me. I learned that when you're developing a product and you launch it in December, and by July you run out of cash, you're still screwed.
Yeah, right.
So it's a lesson that always stuck with me as I transitioned later on to the nonprofit sector. So we built this company. It was pretty successful. We eventually sold the business to PV, one of the big music manufacturers, and then I built another business by myself for a couple of years, and then there was an opportunity. I sold that business too, and there was an opportunity to take over an arts council in Louisiana, in the city I was in. That always had this promise, this dream to build a new arts center, and it sounded like a fun thing. I had just made a few bucks and felt pretty good about being set up. So I said, well, this kind of combines everything I've ever done. I worked as a professor. I been in the arts my whole life, and I did business. So it seemed like I could combine all those things and do something really good for my community. So I applied, got the job, and then got to build this art center. I learned how to lobby at the state, and we found the money quickly. And
So this was in Louisiana?
this was in Louisiana.
Where at?
This was in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Okay, I've been there.
The heart of Cajun country.
Yeah,
so
I've been there.
I learned Cajun cooking. I learned how to dance Zydeco, and and I learned how to build an arts organization.
That's amazing.
And we literally built this center from the ground up. It was a amazingly rewarding experience.
Yep.
And then we filled it with life every day and punched way above our weight and did some really great things in a smaller community. And
good place to learn.
A great place to learn and really to grow. And it was an incredible experience. And I loved being there. Met my wife there inside that center. She's a visual artist and had a piece and a show in our main gallery. And so when I walked in, I noticed, frankly, I noticed her legs first, then I noticed her art, which was awesome. The legs were even better. And then I got to know her. And late in life, we both found each other and got to marry. She had lived all over the world for a while as well.
So you were separated for some time after you first met her?
No, when we met, she had moved back to Lafayette. She's from there originally, from Louisiana, and her family was there. She had moved home to be closer to family. When we met, we dated for a couple of years and then got married in our backyard there. It was a wonderful thing. So Lafayette was a great place for me on all kinds of levels, and I spent 10 years building this organization, and it was just an amazing experience. And then, you get to this point where you feel like, I think I'm maxed out here. I think I've done what I can do. I can't see any further, and maybe somebody new can see further for that organization. But for me, it's time to move on. And when I saw the advertisement for this job here in Scottsdale, I was like,
so that's what was one of my questions. I was wondering how you got here. So there was an advertisement. They were looking for an executive director? Or?
Yeah. So Scottsdale Arts is an illustrious organization with a long history. And a very successful history since 1974 or so when the center was opened.
Yeah.
But in the last decade plus, the organization had some hard times. We went through, I think, 3 CEOs in a decade and 2 interim people in between. We had financial troubles. We struggled to be part of the community, really, and I think, it isolated ourselves from our peers. And so if we become, quaint and a bit antiquated, perhaps, right? And less
that's
relevant.
how it felt from the outside looking in.
I'm glad to hear that because that's certainly what.
Totally.
So as I was looking at the organization, that's what it looked like when I was thinking about applying, and that actually appealed to me because I thought, okay, great history. Incredible potential.
Yep.
I mean, thinking about where we are. I mean, Scottsdale. It's one of the great destinations, right? Unlimited potential.
Yep.
And I knew I didn't want to take over a legacy thing. I'm not a sort of status quo, hold down the fort kind of guy.
Right. Yeah, you're ready to take it to the next level.
I get bored. Yeah. So I like to do turnarounds and build it. Right. So it was kind of an ideal thing, and so the organization and this I think is why things worked out as well as they did so far. The organization and its leadership, its board, had recognized that they kept doing the same thing with the same results, and it was time for real change. So they were looking at a different kind of candidate for the job. So when I applied, it was a plum job, so there were lots of applicants, but I think in the end, I came to the table with a plan. I said, for looking from the outside in, here are the problems I see with the organization. And here is my 7-point plan to fix it for the first, say, 3 years and get us on track. And then after that, here's the 1-page strategic outlook of how to build and grow.
You've already done the work.
In essence. I tried to really come to the table with,
a plan.
So basically, when you interview, it should be a 2-way thing, right?
Sure.
Because I wasn't looking for a new job because I needed a job.
Right.
I was looking for a way to grow myself. And that only works if there's a fit from both sides and there's an honest conversation. And thankfully, I mean, the board chair that hired me, Kathy Wills, was I think she's an amazing and visionary person. And she said...
She's my banker, by the way, that's helping me
redo
my kitchen. So thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
She's the one that brought me to you. So.
That just knocked a half a point off your interest. There you go.
I hope so. She's amazing, though.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
And so she, we sat down, had an honest conversation. I said, if you're looking to hire somebody to maintain what you're doing right now, don't hire me. It's not going to work. If you think that you need to have change and perspective,
right.
Then I would love to be considered. And I think that's in the end where the board ended up, and as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing story. I love that. And like I said, I've only been involved for 6 months, if even that long, and I'm just totally flabbergasted every time I walk away from a board meeting. I'm just always fired up, and just to see your vision and your energy and everything you bring to the group and how you inspire everybody in that board is really, really. I'm not trying to butter you up too much, Gerd, but I sit on a lot of boards, and all of them are led by dynamic people like you, which is what it takes. But you do a great job. So
well, thank you.
And the other thing that you made me think of while you were talking way back on the spreadsheets and everything, you were formally trained and educated in music, correct?
Yeah, that's
but
it.
not business.
No.
Not business. You learned business by doing business.
I did. I literally am one of those guys who just got into it and learned how to do it. And when I say learn, I should probably say learn how to do it, because there's this wonderful saying that every time you climb a little hill, you see a little further, right? And that's how it feels like to me. Like this last couple of years has been a challenging time, but financially there were also opportunities in this time. We grabbed those opportunities, and all of a sudden I begin to see things differently.
That's what I was just going to say. When things like this, when adversity comes your way, I think a lot of people tend to just buckle in and cuddle into a fetal position. And I think the thing to do is what you did is you got to look at it and go, okay, now I'm seeing everything from a totally different perspective because I have no choice. It's like when your wrist broke. You have no choice but to see things totally differently. And some people take that opportunity and grab it and go with it. And other people hunker down and don't do anything with it. So to me, that's what I got out of your notes, is how you've been that type of person that when adversity comes, you run right towards it.
Well, yeah. I think when adversity hits you, so you don't have a lot of choice. You have a choice.
You have a choice.
You can be miserable, and
exactly
you can cower,
No, there's a choice.
Or you can see, okay, where's the opportunity here?
Right.
And there are a lot of famous business people who say this, and Warren Buffett has this wonderful quote, right?
Yeah, but you practice it, is what I see.
Yeah, and I think that is important when you're. I think it's my job and my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
I'm responsible for the well-being of my staff and to serve this community. And we can't do that if we can't take a risk, a calculated risk, and if we can't get our financial ship in order, right? Then,
that's exactly right.
As my favorite nun once said, no margin, no mission, right? So we really have to figure out how to balance those pieces and still remember that we're not in the business of making money, but we're in the business of making money and bringing in money so we can do the things we're in business for.
Exactly. So tell us more about your experience in leading Scottsdale Arts through that pandemic, because I kind of came in kind of at the tail end, although really we don't know where we are in the pandemic at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all thought we were kind of done, and here we are again.
Yeah, it's true.
So what really struck me was what you accomplished during that pandemic.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, and then where do we go from here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the first thing I should stress is that I believe that relatively speaking, dumb luck has often been a good friend to me over the course of my life and career, and I think this was also true these last couple of years. We've been very, very fortunate. We certainly sought opportunities when they came up. But it started with a lucky coincidence. Right as the pandemic struck us, right at my 2-year anniversary in the job, we had actually completed a full financial turnaround of the organization, and it wasn't always pretty. Let me tell you, after year one. I looked at 10, 12 years of financials, and I said, we do all these horrible practices nonprofits do. We use this year's money to pay next year's money to pay this year's expenses. We post revenues from contributions that we then write off the next year, all that kind of crap. And finally, we just said, we're going to do a hard reset. We're going to write a bad year, but we're done with this, and it doesn't hang around our neck for the next decade. We did all that. Then the next year, I invited the entire staff and said, we can only turn the ship and make budget if we work together. And what we need is about a 5% swing. If you save 5% of cost, make 5% more revenue.
That's a big swing.
That's $1 million to us and $1.2 million, and that's all we need.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, when you put it that way, everybody stood up and was counted, and we made it work. It was an incredible thing. So right as the pandemic hit, it was my 2-year mark here, and we were in great financial shape and on track to do a record surplus. So that meant at the very first few weeks when we triaged the situation, I went back to the board. I remember this, and I said, I want to hang on to all of my staff members. Everybody in the field is letting everybody go. I think it's irresponsible. This staff went through a lot with us the last 2 years to rebuild this organization. If we can keep them, I think long term it'll be good for us.
Yeah.
And I think at the time I said, I think it'll be 18 months. Typically that's what happens with pandemics. I was proven wrong because here we're going on 2 years now, but okay. It will be 18 months, and I think we have enough resources. And as long as the city keeps paying us the portion that they pay us to supplement us, I think we'll be okay. That turned out to be a good thing, and that worked for us. So we, throughout the pandemic to this day, never laid off a single staff member, which was really important to me personally, and I think for the organization was a good thing. Then we said, then of course, a few months after that, some of the federal support and some of the state and local foundations started giving us support. We were actually able to tuck away that money rather than needing it to operate because we were in such good financial health. And it set us apart from just about every other organization in the state. And so over the course of this last 2 years, we were able to sock away money. We didn't take our endowment draws from our investments. And as the market first went down and then rebounded, we didn't just cash out when things were bad. We held on to everything. So as it rebounded and now crested 36,000 points, our investments grew significantly. So we now have, for the first time in history, more than $10 million in net assets for the organization.
That's so good.
We have now more than $10 million in investments, and a big part of that is no longer endowed, but is now actual real reserve money that we could take out to invest in ourselves or work with exactly.
Yep.
And so that was a really critical thing for us, because now we are about to grow in bounds and leaps, and if you don't have a healthy balance sheet, I mean, the risk is unbearable, right? Because you have to invest in yourself to grow to the next level. And so there was huge opportunity in these last 2 years, and it was incredibly hard to be in our business because we're in the business of connecting people one-on-one.
And events.
And gathering people and shared experiences and all that. And a lot of that was... I was about to say cut off, but that's not true. We remained largely open, again, because we kept our staff and we invested in safety features. We were able to have some semblance of a season even through the heart of the pandemic and do it safely. And that helped us with our financial disposition and with everything. We kept everybody busy. We planned for a big season. And then we also said, okay, when we launched October 2021, we said, since we're the strongest one standing, we're going to book the best season ever. And even if we don't get huge financial returns from shows, we have the stuffing to make it work. But we're going to rebuild our market because we'll have a lot to offer to everybody. And I think that's been proven to be successful for us right now as well.
Yeah, that's great. So Scottsdale Arts encompasses a lot of different things. There's the performing arts, there's the Museum of Contemporary Art, there's the canal conversions. That's just to name a few. So tell us more about what is Scottsdale Arts?
That's a great question. So, and often one of our challenges is we're a little difficult to understand because we're literally a six-ring circus.
Yeah.
So there's the Center for Performing Arts, which is our oldest branch. It opened in 1975. SMOCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art.
Which is amazing, by the way.
Incredible.
If you haven't been there, folks, go check it out. It is so cool.
Thank you. It's an incredible asset. It's a small but very fun museum dedicated 100% to very contemporary work, looking forward rather than backward. We have a significant collection, but we're really constantly curating our own shows and looking ahead. So that museum opened in 1999. It's now 22 years old. Then, of course, there's Scottsdale Public Art, that a division that started in 1983 with a Percent for the Arts program in Scottsdale. We now have 160 large-scale pieces across the city. Most of the fountains, the highway art on the 101, those beautiful lizards and cacti on the walls, the Candelaria Bridge, pedestrian bridge, the doors in front of P.F. Chang, to name a few. The big horsehead scuppers on Indian Bend, wonderful pieces. So really large scale works, 160 plus pieces. We install 3 or 4 works every year, and that's a separate, $3-4 million budget for us. Then there's Scottsdale Arts Learning and Innovation, our education outreach branch. So we work with 30,000 plus kids in the school system every year.
That's great.
Mostly Title I, Title IV, so low-income families. And people always think, well, what low income in Scottsdale, but
Oh yeah, there's quite a bit.
public schools are public schools, right?
Yeah,
and
I'm on the board for Habitat for Humanity, so I'm
so
aware
you know.
of it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that. Then you mentioned canal convergence, which has become in the last 2-3 years a huge success. We grew it very quickly from 30,000 annual visitors to 300,000. Big public art festival on the waterfront. And then there is events at Civic Center. So right now that's shut down. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second.
That's coming up.
But it'll relaunch in 2023 with flying colors, and it's going to become one of our largest, if not the largest, driver for the organization.
That's so cool.
So that's us in a nutshell. So it's a little harder to understand us. We are not quite as visible as, say, one big building on a corner somewhere.
Right.
But we inhabit this beautiful Civic Center campus, 20 plus acres of green space with our beautiful buildings. And of course, we have a very ambitious vision now to build out this campus to become.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Greatest.
I mean, I think that is really incredible what's going to happen down there. And I guess some areas of it is already fenced off and is underway, right?
Yeah, so that's a great thing. And again, it's interesting how the pandemic sort of, both disrupted and favored this project. When I started here in 2018, one of the first things I did is I wandered around this campus and I wondered why we were so hard to discover, right? It felt very turned inward. It's hard to access. You can stand in front of our buildings and not quite see us. It was a strange thing, and that's still an issue. But I realized after a while that when first this campus was built, before that they built this weird old Los Olivos parking garage, which was meant to be a roadblock between the riffraff and the saloons and the and City Hall, basically, and to keep people away, right? And then when we buried Drinkwater to unite this campus, we turned the front doors of our buildings, City Hall, the Center for Performing Arts, the library, into back doors.
Right.
So the campus became hard to discover. Beautiful space, but so for the last 20 years, there has been talk about renovating it. When I started my job, I walked around, I invited some friends I built venues with over the last decade to help me envision something. And we said, an outdoor venue would make so much sense. It's the desert.
Yeah,
October through May. I mean, there's hardly a chance of rain. It's beautiful under the stars. I mean, you should do something like that. So we brought that to the table, worked it into a bond issue with the city, and eventually helped pass a bond in November 2019 to actually get approval to do this project as one of the 50 or so projects in the bond.
Yep.
And we have other projects funded in there as well that will benefit us later on. This then became the first project out the gate. We started construction 2 months ago. It's a full-fledged renovation of Civic Center, and what's particularly wonderful is we're building not one but two magnificent outdoor venues.
Yeah.
One, a main stage on 75th Street that will play to about 2,500 people in lawn seating. And right in front of the center, in the heart of this campus, we're going to build what we call a 360 stage, which is a circular canopy that allows us to play in all four directions, basically.
That's cool.
And we can play to varying size audiences. So that's incredibly exciting, very innovative, and I think we're designing a plan now that when we're reopening in January of 2023, we're going to come out the gate with a full slate of a first season, and as a matter of fact, we're going to open up with an Arizona Classic Car Concourse in January of 23.
That'll be a big hit.
It'll be in conjunction with Barrett. So
I think Super Bowl's coming in 23.
And then Super Bowl is our next big thing. So we are opening with a real bang. It's going to be very exciting.
That's
and then
incredible.
After that, we'll do a series of great music shows, lifestyle events. We're bringing back Candelaria, our arts festival, and many other things.
Great.
So it'll be chock-a-block.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, just to go back down there, like, again, I felt like I've rediscovered the Civic Center now that I'm on the board, and I'm forced to come to these board meetings. I'm like, wow, this is really neat down here, and I've kind of forgotten about it. And we, since over the holidays, went to a couple of the performances there at the Virginia Piper Center, and it was just fabulous. And it's like, why don't we do this more often, Yeah. And so I really do think people need to be awakened to what's happening there. Yeah. And I just commend you for doing it. I want to post some of the photos of those renderings of the stage and everything you're talking about, because they're just our talking about isn't giving it justice to what the visual of that's going to look like.
It's going to be really beautiful.
It looks amazing,
and it'll tie the whole Civic Center together. And of course, So to me, I feel fortunate, again, very lucky that this was the first project out the gate, that it's happening right now.
Right.
I mean, if there ever was a time to build outdoor venues,
Yeah.
coming out during the pandemic, it makes even more sense, right?
Sense.
So that's awesome.
Yep.
And of course, this is just the beginning. So as I like to say, so now we already have money in the bond for our small theater renovation. Our small theater is stuck in the 70s in the worst way, and it needs to be completely reimagined. We've raised an extra $3 million to add to the bond money, and we're going to do it right and turn it into a little jewel box theater that will be, by the way, ready for podcasting.
Cool.
And streaming services. So we're going to think about something that really serves us in the future, as that will be with us for a long time. So next time we do one of these, we'll hopefully do it in there.
That'd be awesome.
And
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then of course that's really just the beginning. After that, we're going to do the real ambitious stuff. We're going to transform that entire corner of our campus.
Oh yeah, I saw the renderings. It's incredible.
Yeah, it'll be wonderful. And then we're going to connect much better to, say, Museum of the West and the Artist School down the street, and then up into the gallery district. I think that's going to be very exciting.
It really starts tying the whole city together in this really creative, artistic way. And just what I like is just the energy that it's going to connect, you know.
I think it's an opportunity for us to build really the finest arts campus in the Southwest.
Yeah, totally. I think it's an art city is what it becomes.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to segue to is, you know, we talk about all these programs and all these things that Scottsdale Arts is doing. And with all the problems we have in the world and the city and everything else, why are arts so important to community, particularly Scottsdale?
You know, that's a great question. I sometimes say, quarter jokingly, that we save the planet one great arts event at a time, right?
Yeah.
I think when I first started here, a gentleman who became a good friend, Jim Bruner, who has done a lot of great things for the city, he always told me that he thinks that art and culture are in Scottsdale's DNA.
Yep.
And I think that's very true. We live in a very cultured place. We live in a very beautiful place. We live in a place that's a luxury destination. Yep. And it's part of this huge metro area. So there are a couple important things. One is, while that may be true, Scottsdale has not reinvested in its arts asset in the last 20-odd years in significant ways. While Mesa and Chandler and Tempe all passed arts taxes, arts millages, right, that directly feed them, and invested in big new art centers and so forth. So we've become much less competitive. That's a challenge.
Yep.
So I think by addressing this over the next decade plus and building out this magnificent campus, we can reclaim that mantle, really.
Yeah.
The second thing that I think is critical to understand is that if there ever was a time in which we realized the importance of art and culture for a sense of community, I think it is now.
Yeah.
We live in an environment that becomes more and more bifurcated. I think, there are a lot of reasons why that is, but I think when you bring people together around a great shared experience, a cultural experience, a great arts event, people set all those things aside and really come together in a good, meaningful way as humans.
And as a community.
And there's a sense of community, and as a community, and then also we discover through those experiences that we are really more similar than different.
Yeah, more
no matter
connected
what we scream at each other over social media, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I see, besides providing something really entertaining and beautiful and fun, I really see a key role in building better communities that comes from the arts. I think it's a really important thing. And education is the key to everything, right? We know that. And creative education in particular, especially today. Yeah,
which I think is lacking a lot in the schools. And I one of my favorite things as a young student was, art, drafting. Those classes obviously influenced me tremendously. And I just feel bad for some of these kids that they aren't getting exposed to some of that. And so fortunately, some of your programs are filling that gap.
The school systems, because of funding issues, have gutted creative education. By and large, arts classes are gone. Yeah. And it's organizations like ours who step in that void and provide that service. And I think we're good at it because we can provide it in a less bureaucratic and much more cost-effective way. So I actually think it's a good partnership to have. But if organizations like ours don't do the work, you're right.
There's a huge void there.
Dearth.
Yeah, and I look at where technology is going and the creativity out there with the metaverse and avatars and NFTs, and that all takes creative imagination, creative
Absolutely.
people, and
Yeah.
so if they're not teaching that at the ground roots,
Yeah.
where is that going to be coming from?
Yeah, absolutely right. But it also means, I'm glad you mentioned, especially technology, where
Yeah.
things are headed. It means that organizations like ours, we are deeply multidisciplinary. We really cover just about every aspect of cultural life, right?
Right.
And as such, I think for us, it was important over the last few years to reinvent ourselves. We used to be very stodgy. We did
Right.
sort of really old school stuff. We're now recognizing that our community is changing fast. If you look at the census between 2010 and 2020, Scottsdale's median age, I think, dropped by 6 years to about
Interesting.
44. So
Wow.
I'm now an old guy here.
Yeah.
And its diversity went from 6 to 21% in a decade.
Interesting.
So Scottsdale is changing fast. And of course, we're
Yeah.
part of the Valley, and the Valley is such a dynamic place now. So we want to be the organization that is part of leading the way, not just being reactive, but really anticipating where are things going? Where is the arts going? How do we work with NFTs? How do we build a new museums wing or a new part of the museum that looks at electronic art,
Right.
projection,
The
mapping,
metaverse museum.
the metaverse stuff, exactly, because it's all becoming part
It
of
is.
art creation.
It
right?
is totally. It's coming big time, and that's why I see Scottsdale, the art scene of Scottsdale, become one of the top venues for the arts in this country. And I feel it's got the potential to be one of the top spots in the world. And I feel that's part of your energy and your vision. I think you see way beyond what's potential here just in Scottsdale. I think you see this as a world venue, as a place where people from around the world go, you know what, you've got to go see Scottsdale.
Mark, well, thank you, first of all. And I'm not the smartest and most creative person in the world, but I tend to, I read a lot, I look a lot, I talk a lot to people. And I think I can see good ideas and I see opportunities.
Yeah.
When I first came here, as I said, I'm thinking I have 10, 15 good years left in me in my career before I want to sip into the sunset. But I'm looking at the build out of our campus as a huge opportunity, but then I have an even bigger idea at some point that would make us really a sort of a world destination in the arts. And you're absolutely right, Scottsdale is sort of a logical place. I mean, the sky's the limit for us.
It
here,
totally
if you
is
think
the
about
limit.
where we are.
Yeah.
So there is that, and we have the natural setting, we have the dynamism of this big metro area, but we're still a smaller city in this metro area. So I can call the mayor and
Communicate.
meet with him
Right.
without having to jump through lots of hoops. That's a real advantage for us. So I'm excited about that. The other thing though that really matters to me is when I started my job, I wondered why we only presented shows like November through March, and my crew said, "Well, it's because that's when people are here." And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, that's when we can sell tickets because people are here, and after that they're gone." I said, "But there are 5 million people in
Still
the
here.
Valley, and most of them are like me. They have to work for a living and can't just take off for 6 months." And
Yeah.
I said, "Well, yeah, but they don't come to us." So if you were, this is just less than 4 years ago.
Sure.
If you were to look at us now, our core audience has really shifted, and our programming is now almost year round.
Yeah.
And of course, many of our branches, like public art and education, so forth, it's a very different kind of work. So we are much less centered on just the center and performing arts. We've now become a much broader, more balanced organization. And I think for us, that was an important evolution, because that is where I see the future going.
Right.
This idea that when all these different parts of what we do come together, we can so much deeper serve our community, and that's when we can build out a much bigger vision. And so that's what excites me.
Yeah. Well, I think what I see from all this is your love of art and your love of numbers, because I definitely see your ability to look at the demographics, look at the figures, and then derive information and a vision from those numbers. So I think those spreadsheets from way back when really came in handy for you, Gerd. You do a great job with all of that. So you are having your annual fundraising gala is coming up Saturday, April 2nd this year, right?
That's right.
It's called Artrageous. It's a fabulous event, which I've been to a few times. Tell us what attendees can expect and how they get their ticket sales to help the arts.
Yeah, so this year's Artrageous is, of course, last year we did a virtual thing. Only this year will be very exciting. We shifted into April because I'm trying to pave the way for a future spring event. outside.
Mm-hmm.
But this year we can't be on our campus outside because it's
Under
dug up.
construction. Yep.
So we are going to be at Scottsdale Stadium.
Oh,
the stadium
wow.
had a big renovation a year and a half ago and has this beautiful new venue facility that is just stunning. So we're going to dress it up and make it very red carpet, very fun, elegant. Our two fearless leaders of the charge are Oscar de la Sala and Anita Lang.
They've both been on my podcast, and I'll get them on here. I want to get both of them simultaneously. Maybe we'll throw you in the mix too.
That would be fun.
That would be fun with the three of you.
The three of us. Oh my God.
Yeah. So we're gonna make that happen.
Yeah. You may have to have a whole day though to get all of us talking. They're just some of the most colorful, wonderful
they're
people.
wonderful.
And they're going to bring the glam to this thing. And the subtitle for this year's Outrageous is Luminescence.
Oh, nice.
Because we engaged a wonderful company called Quixotic. They're sort of a Cirque du Soleil-ish performance group that are going to do the entertainment throughout the evening. It's going to be literally trapeze artists hanging from the rafters and all kinds of fun stuff. It'll be a very special evening. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about our big vision and most importantly highlighting that a year later we'll have this event outside on our newly renovated Civic Center campus. It'll be
so
spectacular. So while this is a bit of a placeholder year of being off campus, but we wanted to also highlight this wonderful new facility at the stadium and showcase our partnership with the city. So there are a number of reasons. We're going to have some special honorees again, people that have really played a significant role for art and culture in Scottsdale. We're going to honor that year. And it'll just be a fun-filled evening, very elegant, red carpet, big, film. It's going to be very sort of Hollywood meets Scottsdale.
Well, you got the two right people to kind of showcase that. That's for sure. So I was at the one 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and that was a lot of fun.
Tons of fun.
Yeah, lots of fun.
Exactly.
So, little side note here. I just want to diverge a little bit. I heard you were on the Charo ride this last year.
Yeah, as a fellow Charo. I did my first Charo ride finally.
I haven't been on one in a couple of years, but I heard you picked the one with the snow and the cold temperatures.
Yeah. So it was first of all it was amazing. And,
it is amazing, isn't it?
My buddy Dennis Robbins, of course, he's the head of the Charos, and also not only one of our board members, but in line to become the next board chair in July.
An amazing guy.
Amazing guy. He lives and breathes Scottsdale. One of the greatest guys I've ever met. Yeah. So Dennis invited me up, and this is my first ride. So of course there's some hazing. So
you had the rookie. You had to wear the pink.
I wore the pink tutu and the whole 9 yards. Plenty fun was made of us, and that's fine. But I'm also, as a German, I'm a bit of a rule follower. So Dennis, who is has an economy of words, unlike me. Gave me the short version of the instructions, which is you can't bring a bed, you sleep on the ground, no tent, unless it's raining or crazy, and so no matter how cold, and no phones. So I said, okay, I'm gonna leave my phone at home. I'm gonna sleep on the ground, and there's that. Little did I know that everybody else was cheating, right? But so there I was, and
especially with the phones.
Exactly, especially with the phones. So my wife was disappointed because everybody on the girl night got texts from their guys, and she didn't.
I don't know my phone.
So, but first morning I woke up and I was covered in icicles on my sleeping bag. It was awesome. I'm telling you, I didn't look at a screen for 5 days. That's been the first in a decade. Yeah, probably.
It is a nice.
It was an amazing thing,
and
the camaraderie was amazing.
Food's great.
I'm still in recovery from the amount of whiskey I had on the
whiskey
ride.
kept you warm though.
And it did. That was my excuse. And the food is great. The camaraderie is amazing. The landscape and the
beautiful
view
up
is
there.
Incredible. I love horses, so I had a really great time on my horse. And then at the end, I remember Jim Lane, former Mayor Lane, who I've gotten to know really well and built
great
a friendship.
Guy, yeah.
Good guy. He came up for the last day just to visit, and he had to look twice at me. He said, Gerd, is that you? Because I'm wearing my cowboy outfit and a hat and all.
You haven't
that
shaven
stuff.
in 4 days.
I have a beard. And he said, Well, I'll be darned. I don't think we ever had an arts guy on this thing, and I didn't think I'd ever see the day. So,
that's what I said when I heard you were on. Like, what? That's awesome.
So I think I earned some props. Anyway, I had the best time. I won't miss one again.
Yeah. So for me, the best day of the trip, it's a 4-day trip, but the best day for me is the day the bus arrives with the girls.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just had it for 4 days with these guys and drinking whiskey and playing cards, and I mean, when those girls show up, it's like, wow, these women our women are so beautiful.
Oh, they are unbelievable. I'm telling you, I didn't know what to expect and how to expect. First of all, my wife is a really independent lady, right?
Uh-huh.
So when I told her, hey, I'm going on this dude's trip, and by the way, you get to come up for the girls' night at the end, and then you get to watch us do our horse exercises. And she just looked at me and said, oh, come on, you're out of your mind. But anyway, so she then, of course, did it and had a total blast.
Yeah, they have a lot of fun, too.
When the buses pulled up and the ladies stepped off, I was looking around. I think everybody had tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, so we all acted bawdy for 4 days, and then here we were all softies.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a great moment, though, for sure.
It's great.
So, so aside from the Charo ride and aside from the gala, what other upcoming in-person and virtual events people should look forward to from Scottsdale Arts this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I'll encourage you all, go on our website, scottsdalarts.org. You can go from there to all the different branches and see what's coming up. We have a new set of gallery shows opening in February that is amazing. Beverly McKeever, one of the most sort of deepest shows speaking to African diaspora, etc., that we've ever produced with a big grant from Wells Fargo Foundation and the Andy Warhol Foundation. I'm really excited about this show coming up. Our performing arts season is unbelievable. We have some really incredible things coming up, especially if you're interested in more diverse things. We cover lots of different
That's what I love. It's like things I wouldn't even think of, and I go, wow, this is like a whole other world I didn't even know existed.
Exactly. And I started producing something called Gerd's Preferred, so my tips of what I'm particularly excited about.
Yeah.
And, this month alone, we have bands like the Punch Brothers and Los Lobos coming, interspersed with great classical music, a Rita Rudner, famous comedian, and some great Broadway performers, and a great dance company is coming up.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of everything.
Really an amazing array of things. And this season, I think we produced 220 or so performances. So it's that's amazing. Really big season for us. So check out the site and pick some shows. You won't regret it. It's a beautiful hall to go into.
It's great.
In public art, of course, we are about to install some major new projects, including beautiful public artwork in the Drinkwater Tunnel. Something I wanted to do
I've
since
seen those renderings.
And I think, every time I drive through that thing, I think you should know that you're under an arts campus right now. So let's make it so. And so finally we're getting to do that. It's very exciting, and just much, much more. It's an exciting year.
Well, I love the energy. I love where this is all going, and I'm really, really honored to be a part of the board. So
well, we're really thrilled to have you, Mark.
I'm hoping I can find my way, because there's a lot I'm learning, and I know you'll put me to good use in some manner. So
oh, for sure. This campus task force we put together right now to help us grow, you're the man for the job.
I'm excited. I'm very excited. So thanks so much for joining us today, Gerd. This has been a lot of fun. I will put that podcast together with Anita and Oscar and you.
Awesome.
And I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what are some best ways that our listeners can find and connect with you and Scottsdale Arts?
Yeah, so our website, scottsdalearts.org, really easy to find. There are sub-sites for each of the 6 branches of the organization. It gives you as much or as little information as you'd like. That's a great way to get in touch with us. You can call us anytime, come to our campus, check us out. If next time you find yourself having a cocktail at AZ88, just
pop over.
Walk down alongside the fence over the gravel thing, and you'll be right in front of our buildings. And check us out. The museum is a great place to visit anytime. And as I said, tons of great shows coming up.
Yeah, and the Scottsdale Arts on Instagram is a lot of fun too.
Oh, good. I'm not a social media guy, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so I follow that. I post and tag as many times as possible. But yeah, go down there and check it out. Check out the Museum of Contemporary Art for sure, because it's a great experience. I don't think people don't get it until you go see it, and then you walk out of there and you go, that was really kind of amazing.
Thank you.
So great. I really enjoyed getting a chance to know you a little bit better, and I look forward to barbecuing and doing some smoking on the grill with you, and some eating and some art and music, and we got a lot of things to do.
For sure. It's all connected.
All right, my friend. Take care.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Gerd. I knew this was going to be a great interview, and I am just that more excited to be part of this amazing organization. I'm also looking forward to cooking with you, so we will have to get that into the works. I think we're going to have a good time. So many exciting things to come, and definitely stay tuned to the Scottsdale art scene as there are some great venues and events forthcoming. Okay, stay tuned as we have some fun podcasts in the works, including more podcasts with artists, chefs, realtors, and a couple MVPs, so stay tuned. Next weekend, I am off to my hometown, Durango, Colorado, for the Xavier father-daughter ski trip, and I have a couple podcasts in the works there, so stay tuned for that. Okay, I want to say a big thank you for the subscribes and reviews. Please take 5 minutes to give us a review, and if you do, we will enter you in our drawing where you will receive free round-trip airfare for our Candelaria Design Spain tour coming up this coming June. Seriously, you can't lose here, so go right now and give us a rating and review along with a subscribe, and then email or direct message me that you did, so we will get your name in the hopper for this drawing. We do our best to inspire living in everything we do, from our podcast to our cooking classes to our tours, and of course with our Candelaria Design homes. Okay, have a great week, everyone. Let's stay safe, and let's all live our lives with love, compassion, grace, and positivity. See you next week. Because Inspiring Living is all about the people and the organizations that inspire us, we are excited to have Monogram Appliances as one of our sponsors. Anytime we do a new kitchen or a kitchen remodel, Monogram Appliances are what we recommend to our client. Their appliances are the definition of luxury, meticulously detailed using the finest materials and an ownership experience that is second to none. This is how Monogram is always thinking ahead and inspiring and elevating the kitchen experience. Because at Monogram, they don't just elevate one thing, they elevate everything. I want to say a big thank you to my good friends at Stockett Tile and Granite Company, where your project is our priority. I want to thank the Stockett team, along with so many others who contributed to the success of our fabulous demonstration kitchen in our new Candelaria Design office expansion. You will have to check out online our video cooking classes, and our kitchen is amazing. I've had the pleasure of working with the Stockett team for nearly 40 years on many spectacular projects, and trust me, they are the epitome of excellence when it comes to tile, marble, and granite work, bar none. Their skill and customer service is impeccable, and the bottom line is they are just good people. I have traveled with and dined with and just had good times, both personally and professionally, with Dave Stockett and his lovely wife, Becky, and they are the best. When it comes to your next tile and stone project, make sure Stockett Tile and Granite is a part of your team. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. We encourage you to write a review, screenshot it, and share it with your friends. Please instant message it to me and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights to inspiring living next week.